Thank you very much, Brother McCormick. And fortunate is Moses' mom just came in the room. And thank you, Ms. McCormick, for the wonderful dinner that we had night before last, I guess it was. Now, I've been challenged to call it challenge your grab you. And I'll do that by saying this Pan-African movement that we were talking about, it really is a global movement. About 500 years ago, as you all know, the white supremacists, this is your challenge. We're still living in a global white supremacy. So you have a big job. And the people that came here 500 years ago, because they didn't want to really work, they heard that we had some strong black people in a place called Africa, and they came and got us, right? And they took us with the intention that we were to work and that we would perish, that we would never come back to Africa. But the good news is that we survived. And not only did we survive, but we've thrived. And so as we speak today, with the 1 billion Africans that's on the continent of Africa, and if you decide to become a Pan-African indeed, and you become one nation, not just the continent, but you be one United States of Africa, you'll have a lots of power. Now the other thing that you have to feel real good about is the fact that the Creator placed in Africa all the resources that's going to be needed to fuel this global economy 21st century forward. They're all here in Africa. And so while you might not, because of still global white supremacy, might not have the complete control of your own resources, with your tenacity, with the tenacity of a Moses Makamba, who is not here, but I'm here because he'd asked me to stay, to remain a couple of days. I was supposed to be back in the United States on the 21st, but when I'm asked by my leader, because I believe that the notion that we'll be unified as one with a Pan-African point of view, that we're going to need a leader. And we don't know who that's going to be, but I know that one that's qualified in the form of Mr. McCormick, Mr. Moses. So my challenge to you, now when I walked in and we said this is a conference, Pan-African conference for young people, by young people. And I'm not quite young, I'm young, 77. But I'm not tired yet. And I know the ability that's in this room because I've been escorted by some great young people. And so I know the ability is here. This is Africa's the cradle of civilization. Remember that. The first people came out of Africa. And so all the resources, and when they scattered us across the globe, me and the United States, of course, but we have African Pan-Africanists all over the world. Matter of fact, we had a conference in Chicago early on this year around the same topic. And we had people from all over the world at that conference in Chicago with Jesse Jackson, Pan-African point of view. And so when they came and got us to work us to death, to kill us, it didn't happen, so we are scattered. So not only are we in the United States, and what is, I guess, should be so inspiring to each of you, that an ancestor of Kenya now sits at the top. We talk about white supremacy, but at the head of white supremacy is a Kenyan, and the person, Barack Obama. And so I hope as you talk about trade, not aid, now when the colonialism ended, the idea, of course, that we had to give up Africa. I mean, we the colonial whites, had to go back to Europe because the Mau Mau and others would not take it anymore. But they put a structure in place that still make it difficult, that you have to deal with. now because nothing really, even though we have all the raw materials here in Africa, but the way that the people that is still running this system, nothing is really made here in Africa. And so when we look around and we have 70% unemployment in Kenya, maybe even 80% in Senegal, and we have to begin to understand that when the colonials left, they had planned it so that nothing would be manufactured here in Africa to create jobs. A case in point would be Liberia. Liberia, of course, is actually a part of the United States, because when the Haitians revolted in 1804, the white man recognized that maybe some other these Africans are getting a little antsy, if you will, and want to be free. And so the former slaves from the United States were sent to Liberia and also to Sierra Leone. But about 100 years ago, Sierra Leone needed a loan from the United States, just $5 million. So they came to the United States to borrow $5 million from the government. But our government, being a racist government such as it is, run at that time by white people, they said, no, we'll not. These are some of the kind of challenges that you are confronted with, like that you are equipped to understand this maze that's before you and be able to figure out how, you know, you can trade. First, trade with yourself. I just met with the head of the parliament before coming here, and we talked a little bit about if Africa traded amongst itself, you have a tremendous market to create jobs. But we're living in a global world. We're not going to change that. And so, because of the constraints of time, and I guess we'll be back here tomorrow to talk a little bit more, but understand, I know you do full well, that you have a structure that has to be changed. We have, I call the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, I call them the Siamese twins of white supremacy. They're joined at the head, and they're joined at the head, and they're against us, black people. And one thing about being Pan-African, which would suggest that in Africa and anywhere in the world, we're one people. So if you get, I don't know if you've been in the United States or not, out of Europe, but if you get caught with a black face in the United States or anywhere in the Western world, you'll find out. They don't know whether you're Kenyan or whether you're from the United States or whether you're from Brazil or whether you're from South Africa, etc. So there's challenges are before you, the resources that's needed to fuel the world, the 21st century and beyond, is here in Africa, and they're going to be in your hands. And you have the courage, you have the commitment, you have the survival skills. We've proven it. You know, I've stood to do it in Goree Island 2 times over the last year, and stood in the door of no return. And the question was, or the answer was, we were not supposed to return, but we're back. And we're back unified as one. And so I commend you on taking the time to come here, and the notion of aid that we're getting from some handout from Europe, that's a lie. You know, Africa's the one that's old. First they came and got the human resource. Then they came back and we say colonialism, but actually it was slavery.
Someone